Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. This week we are talking with the marketing manager for BaseMap Hunting and Fishing. BaseMap is a GPS mapping app to aid you in not getting lost, marking your waypoints, e-scouting, all of that good stuff that we've come accustomed to with some of the other mapping apps that are out there. We also have Amber Casey, one of our good friends. She is a BaseMap ambassador, and since she was local, they wanted her to swing by, and it's always good to sit down and have a beer with Amber. So it's a really good podcast. I mean, we wanted to do this podcast because, frankly, we had heard a little bit and seen some things about BaseMap, and we got one of their free promo downloads from the ATA show, as well as they bought all the beer for the Badlands Film Festival, so we knew that we were going to like them. And rather than just use that and not kind of take anything away or share it with you guys on the podcast, we reached out to them, and Ed was so gracious to come on and talk with us. And after using the app, I really do think, especially if you're going out west, it is an amazing resource. It does everything that any of the other apps do at a fraction of the price. I mean, for the entire United States, it's $30, and they've offered us a code of Chronicles, lowercase, to get 20% off. So you're looking at $24 for a year's worth of BaseMap. I mean, that's just incredible. So for the value of it is amazing, and the user interface, everything is really good, and the mapping, like I say, the ability to go on, it's got all these different layers like Google Earth and things like that. So they have a free version of it that you can go on and try if you don't want to spend the money, or if you're already using something else to check it out. Even on the free version and on the app, they have a weekly giveaway. So they've got this gear drop game, basically, where they give you a hint on where this gear is located. You try and find it on the map. You drop these packages, and you get 4 chances, and then they just give it away. And that's available on the free one as well. And it really does, you hear on the podcast, but it actually gets you to learn how to use the map, to practice, to get familiar with the interface. And it's pretty cool. And my money is on, before the end of the year, John winning one of those, because he's just that anal, I guess, about trying to figure that kind of stuff out. That's in his nature. So mark my words right now. They've also agreed to give us a few of those to give away, a few of the promo packages for their pro. So year subscription to BaseMap, that's going to be going in with each one of our quarterly giveaways. So this quarter, we're giving away the bowhunting course, scouting course by Jason Zamkowiak, which is an online video series that he's put together, and he's continually updating, and it's really pretty awesome. As well as now a year subscription to BaseMap Pro, and it does also, BaseMap also does have some fishing, a bunch of lakes, the Gulf of Mexico, all the Great Lakes, and the depths and topography of the lake. So for guys that are into fishing, that's really pretty awesome. And they're going to give us a swag pack as well, with some shirts and hats and things like that to go along with it. And then I think it's finally safe to say, because they're going to be out and they're supposed to be at the show that we're going to be at, we're going to be working the tethered booth at Outdoor Rama this weekend, the February 28th, 29th, and March 1st in Novi. So swing by the tethered booth, check us out. But they are going to have the Phantoms for sale, and we are going to be giving away one of the Phantoms, a Phantom, a tether, and a lineman's belt, along with this Patreon giveaway. So If you're not familiar with Patreon, you can check us out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. But what that is that's just kind of like a crowdfunding. Basically, you're helping out the show by giving a small donation, and in turn, you're buying a lottery ticket or a raffle ticket for each one of these giveaways. And we also have a Patreon Facebook group, and we've been doing some stuff in there. We're almost ready to be live streaming in Facebook. When we do these podcasts, we're going to be videoing those. We were getting our studios together right now. We should have had this one here videoed, but there was an audio problem, so with a call-in guest, it wouldn't have worked. So all that's happening. If you are a Patreon and you're not on the Facebook group, go to our Facebook page and check out the groups. And there's a Bowhunter Chronicles podcast opportunist group, and that's simply for the Patreons. We go live in there when we do podcasts, when we are at events. We go just weekly in there to check up and kind of poll and see how we're doing. But if that's not for you, no big deal. Please just, tell somebody about the podcast. Tell them something that you liked. Maybe tell them about this one, about BaseMap versus some of the other mapping softwares. And, follow along with us on Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube. That's where all these videos that we're going to be making for the podcast, after we're done streaming them for our Patreons, about a week or so later, they're going to go up on our Facebook or our YouTube page. So you'll be able to find that. And we're going to be doing a bunch of things. Like if you are following along on Instagram, I archived the story, but John just built a string. And he went step by step by step by step. So you hear us talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to be doing that with arrows. When that string is finished, we're going to put that on the bow. All that stuff is going to be kind of done in our studio via the new camera setup that we've got, and then that's going to go right to the YouTube page. So that's what we've got coming up. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. We kind of go through all of the different things about e-scouting, mapping, and all the features that BaseMap has. Maybe that sets it apart from some of the others, as well as maybe some teasers about some things that are actually coming out for BaseMap in the future. But I know you guys are going to really like this one. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, Adam and John back here with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. And today, we've got kind of like a hybrid podcast. We have Ed Gramza from BaseMap hunting app and Monty the dog in an actual studio. We're sitting down here. But we also have Amber Casey. She's been on the show before. One of the BaseMap ambassadors, to talk about some e-scouting, some mapping, and kind of all the things that BaseMap has to offer versus some of the other mapping apps, softwares out there. So how are you doing today, Ed?
Man, I am doing great. Weather's finally getting a little bit warmer, and I know hunting season's coming, but I'm sure looking forward to fishing season coming up here soon.
Man, it's funny that you bring that up, and this is going to go off on real sideways, but our audience really likes to hear John talk, and that's all we've been talking about lately. It's like, yeah, turkey season's coming, yeah, we're building bows, but all John wants to do is fish and fish and fish some more.
Well, I'm getting ready to go down to Florida, so that's all. I mean, I'm getting ready. I got a boat rented for the week, and we're staying down Marathon in the Keys, and nice. I got saltwater on the brain.
You can fish in the winter.
Yeah, I love fishing. This winter actually has been pretty bad. The ice. I mean, there's ice right now, but I like to use my machine. I don't like walking. So
in warm weather, apparently too. You like.
Well, yeah. Here in Wisconsin, for me, I am cursed, with turkey. For some reason, every other year I don't get a turkey tag in Wisconsin, and this year I decided to just say screw it, and I'm not buying a leftover tag. I'm just going to get the boat out of storage and go fishing instead.
Perfect. There you go.
Well, if you want to feel better about yourself, you or any of the listeners, check out our YouTube page because we've got some epic turkey misses and wounds. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. We'll have some more of that footage this year. So I'm up now. So,
and so, as we've heard, Amber, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Sunday night, got to get up early. It's 8:30, ready for bed, but glad to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. So, I guess we'll start off with, so for myself, I had seen, and I don't know if it was ramped up marketing or whatever, just a little bit here or there with some of the BaseMap stuff, but I really didn't know exactly what was going on with what BaseMap was or how it compared to any of the other
Had you heard
apps.
of it prior to ATA or no?
I had just seen some of the like social media stuff that was coming along.
I heard you talk about it before.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think like because you went out and you were doing some filming and you were using it and stuff like that, and so I had seen it, but it wasn't something that was really on the radar. And
yeah, me either.
And we had to use. So I started out using. Someone showed me years ago Hunt Stand, and I used that, and I absolutely hate it. I hate it to this day. I don't care for it. It's free. I think that's why a lot of people like it. And then you can upgrade, but I feel like nobody does because the free one is kind of like okay, but it's just it's so busy. There's so much stuff going on. They want to sell you everything on the free versions. Well, and then with Onyx, everybody, like when we started this podcast, Onyx was handing out, if you're a podcast, if you're a YouTube channel, if you're doing anything, they'll give you a coupon code, and so everybody's brought to you by Onyx. And so that's all you heard about. And so John started using Onyx, and I think we were using some of the Onyx GPS chips. I think Frank had one of those in his GPS. And so we started using that, and I absolutely hated that. I thought it was overrated at the beginning, and then John was using it. He's like, "You're using it all wrong. You're not using the tracking. You're not using any of the markers." Like I was just literally just like using it as like,
where
I guess,
am I?
Yeah. Like there, I'm in this dot, and
just like a regular GPS.
Yeah. And so then once we started planning our trips out west, it changed, and John gave me the tutorial, and if anybody's for our normal listeners, that's the way that everything goes with this podcast is I do all the talking and John does all the thinking. So he tells me this is what you need to do. This is the way you need to use it. And I started using that. So got pretty familiar with it. And then, we went to ATA and we were there and got one of the swag bags, and it had a free BaseMap. And there was, I think the beer was brought to us by BaseMap too. There.
Yeah, we sponsored the beer and gave away 300 memberships at the Badlands Film Festival.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
and that was excellent marketing. I got it, and John and I were talking about it. And so the only way that we get any money or get anything from the podcast is through our Patreon. So I was like, well, I'm pretty happy with Onyx. We'll just see if we can give these to the Patreons, or how do we do that? And then I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll use it and see.
Sorry, Patreons, just like we'll make up for it.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe I'll use it, and then I'll have some useful information. And so I've been using it, and all the features are pretty much there as far as Onyx. There's nothing that I've really found that's lacking. But now that I've started like looking at going out west. So if anybody's ever done any e-scouting out west, and so when we started the podcast, that was a year I think that we went out west. And so we talked to a lot of different people and gave a lot of different resources on how to e-scout and what to look for and everything like that. And the amount of layers that are on BaseMap for while you're especially e-scouting on the computer is everything is in one place. I was just showing John like where we're going in Colorado. It's like you can click through and see the actual topography. You can see the actual like whatever the USGI topo maps that that's a layer. But John and I bought those and printed those out and did everything on a paper map when we went out there, and it's all in one spot.
Right. Then we'd have split screen on the computer, and I'd be looking at Google Earth and trying to go back, and then.
Have you guys used the 3D on your phones yet?
I have. I'm like old school. I just got a new phone and I hate it. I mean, that's how my transitions go. Like,
did you have a Droid before?
No, I had but it was smaller and I knew where all the stuff was. It had a button on it.
Like
this has no button.
It was like an iPhone 5 or something.
Yeah. So everything, I'm slow to pick up on this sort of stuff, but now that I'm using it in that regard, and then it was kind of like a bitch. I was like, well, I got all these things saved on Onyx, and like, son of a bitch.
Right.
Like,
and that was what I said. I'm like, well, shit, I got all my tracks, all my waypoints, everything. All of our stuff from Idaho.
You guys figured that out, right?
Well, that's the thing. I don't have.
Well, so yeah. So then all of a sudden on social media pops up like, here's a YouTube video on how to import all of your stuff from Onyx.
Wait for it.
So I did that, and I was like, okay, all right. So now everything is there. Everything is. I'm coming around.
And was it easy? I actually haven't talked to anybody that's actually transferred them over.
Yes, it was super easy.
It takes like 90 seconds.
But the only thing, and it's like being like completely transparent, everything comes over in the same color with the same BaseMap icon. So none of your icons transfer over. So
right.
John gets no turkeys for other tree stands or other hunters, the clowns.
Sasquatch.
And everything is the same color. So if you had a track that was blue and red and green, whatever, they're all there. But they're all archived, so if you know what date you were there or whatever, it's still there. But you do have to kind of do some, I guess, going back and forth on that. So
yeah, you can go out and clean that up, obviously on the computer or on the phone. But yeah, the icons aren't exactly the same, so it's kind of hard to transition that information over.
Sure, but yeah, so I mean, that's where we are at with BaseMap as far as right now, using it and our e-scouting. Can you tell us a little bit, Ed, about yourself, your background? We like to get an idea of like what people's background is in hunting, kind of where they're coming from. Because if you tell me that, well, my family has this 5,000 acre spot in Wisconsin, I forget the county that they kept talking about when we were over there, but,
yeah.
Buffalo,
yeah.
and so I got this 5,000 acre thing in Buffalo, and this is what we always do, and I always go to this one stand. It's a lot different than the people I think that are that are really out there pounding it, using these the meat and potatoes of these apps. But we always try and get the background on all of that, and then like the history of yourself with BaseMap and the company and and e-scouting, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. So I live in Wisconsin. I live about an hour north of Milwaukee. Lived in Wisconsin most of my life. I've also lived in Minnesota for a year, and I hate to admit this, but I lived in Illinois for 5 years.
Oh.
I know. It's 5 years of my life I'll never get back.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Do a lot of hunting and fishing. Obviously, I've kind of been in the industry now for about 7 years. Got into it kind of on the the pro staff ambassador side of the world. And to be honest with you, I used to work with Onyx, so I know their company well. It was my first quote unquote paid job or paid position in the hunting industry. I used to run their ambassador team years ago. Left there a little over 2 years ago, and was actually brought on by BaseMap in July of last year as your ambassador manager. I did that for a couple months. They just kept piling more and more stuff on my plate, and I kept joking with them, why don't you guys just hire me full time? Because it's, I don't like my full time job, and now's the time. And after about the 5th time, they took me seriously and offered me a job. So since the middle of October, I am the marketing manager for BaseMap, which is kind of cool. I get to work remote. I mean, the company is based in the Seattle area, but I get to work from home in Wisconsin, which I like. It's kind of different, but it's fun. a little bit more about my hunting. So I don't have a 5,000 acre spread in Buffalo County,
But
but my aunt and uncle have 100 acres, a couple counties south of Buffalo, also full of giant whitetail.
one that might have been or gotten a haircut from you last year.
Yeah, we won't talk about that yet. So unfortunately, I can't say that I kill all these big whitetails. I mean, I have a job and I have kids, and the land is 4 hours away, 3.5 hours away from home, so I'm not out there as often as I'd like. My aunt and uncle live out there, so my aunt kills all the damn big bucks for us, which is no joke. That is no joke. She is the big out of the family. She is the big buck killer. My uncle used to be, but now my aunt has a little bit more time on her hands, and she kills all the big deer. For me in Wisconsin for BaseMap, and even when I was with OnX, I don't use it. I mean, I use it for deer hunting to mark tree stands, mark camera, trail cameras. I'll mark rubs and scrapes as I see them. But I don't use it to go out and find land because, like you guys in Michigan, there's not a ton of public land. Everything's private.
I'd say that's kind of how I am too.
Right.
Except, we just started hunting the state game area, so it's come in handy for that. But yeah, same thing. It's like, we have not many acres to hunt. I'm not gonna mark all of this stuff when I can see it from the house.
Yeah, well, see, that's all we hunt is public basically. I mean, I've got, you talk about a 4.5 hour drive. I've got an 8 hour drive to Menominee County. We've got 240 acres up there, but I mean, you can't go up there for a weekend. You can't do an evening hunt up there.
Right. It's a week-long trip.
Yeah. And so all we do is hunt public that's close or, very small tracts of permission land or something. So
see, in Wisconsin, the rumor and the story is if you go knock on a door and ask permission to shoot, to hunt deer, they chase you off with a shotgun. But you go ask to shoot ducks and geese and turkeys, they tell you to shoot every one of them sons of bitches. Yep. So I use it to get permission for waterfowl and turkey. I live right next to a pretty sizable state forest, but I am too close to Milwaukee and Green Bay and some other larger cities, so it just gets hammered, with people. And in fact, a couple years ago, on our rifle season, I almost got into fisticuffs with a handful of guys that were doing a deer drive, and it wasn't pretty, and I vowed to not go back there. And it's
probably
literally
a good
10 minutes
idea.
from my house. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't hunt. We live literally across the road from the Rogue River State Game area, and we will not hunt on the weekends. Like, we refuse to. Like, we make sure that we go out during the week. There's nobody there, and I'm like, I value my life more than hunting on the weekend, so I'll pass.
Well, what's funny about that is, like, I joke around and say that I'm the world's worst bow hunter, but I was looking around and I only have one buck that I've ever killed with a rifle, and I think that's a testament to the way that we hunt, the way that I was brought up hunting on our property in the UP, because you throw 10-15 guys on 240 acres, it's more pressured than most of the state land, but we don't gun hunt on public land because of all the things that you just outlined. I mean,
yeah,
like, people are so territorial. People just shoot at anything. So we do most of our, we basically only bow hunt now, but all of our public land is, all my bucks have basically come off of public land or, 5 or 10 acres here and there, but all with a bow.
So I have to interrupt. John, what are you doing?
I just logged into my OnX account on my computer. And I was just kind of scrolling through all the public land because that's all I hunt. I don't have any private to hunt.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we're west of you guys.
Yeah.
We're an hour west of Amber. So, the Manistee National Forest runs from basically my property line, basically, or a quarter mile north of us, all the way up past
Traverse
Manistee,
City.
up to Traverse City. So,
Mhm.
so
I just
I
didn't know
use
if
it.
you were getting at something when you brought this up. Or
No, I was
what.
just I was kind of showing all my icons through the whole,
Mm-hmm.
Starting from our. Oh, we could do a little screenshot of it. Well, maybe we won't.
Did you? So you haven't transferred those points over to BaseMap?
I don't have a BaseMap account.
That's
Well,
right.
we're gonna have to fix that, aren't we?
Yeah. So what happened was when we got back, I had the thing in my grab bag, but
From ATA.
ATA. But I'm, like I was telling Adam, this was before he figured out you could switch them over. I'm like, I got all my icons. Well, my buddy Jason, he's pretty old school. He still runs a handheld GPS, and he was asking me about. I'm like, well, I got this BaseMap gift card. I said, take it, download it, and then we'll figure it out together. Well, of course, he downloaded it and put in the code and stuff, and he's like, this thing keeps saying I have to pay for the pro. I'm like, that's what the card was. It was a pro level gift card. Well, I can't get it to work. I just bought a Onyx chip for my
For his
GPS.
GPS.
I'm like, what? Well, it came with the thing for my phone too. I'm like, dude.
So Ed, real quick, because I want to address that. With BaseMap or any of these softwares that you just have on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you see? I mean, obviously, you're probably like a little bit biased, but so where do you see like the actual handheld GPS? Because I bought like a $600 GPS when we went out west. I never took it out of my pack, like never.
The sales of handhelds are going down every year. I'm sure Garmin would probably dispute that, but it's going down. And,
at least on the hunting side, probably.
Yeah, I mean, Onyx actually. I mean, for them, the chips are profitable, but if they could do it all over again, they probably wouldn't do the chip. I mean, because the membership for them, the $100 a year, us $30 a year, it's constant revenue. You buy the chip, and not everybody updates it, so you buy it once and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you have hardware to deal with. I mean,
right.
In this world, you're just buying a service, and it's something that it is the turnover. You're like John here, and he said, sell him on BaseMap because it's something that you've used, so much that it's like just like your phone,
from a Droid to an iPhone.
And if you watch you're listening to like the Joe Rogan podcast when they talk about like the AI, and they say that like actually your phone is now part of that artificial intelligence because it's always attached to you. To get away from that is really something difficult. So
I'm always online.
I mean, there was a point in time where I would not leave the house to go hunting or fishing for that matter, and I wouldn't have my Garmin handheld with me.
Right.
Now the thing just collects dust. I can't tell you the last time I turned it on and used it. The batteries are probably dead in it.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find mine for. I was trying to find mine for out west. I couldn't even find it. I was like, I don't even use that damn thing anymore. It's and I ended up finding it in my tackle box or something like 6 months later. But needless to say, my buddy did. So I'm like, give me your login information because I ended up logging into BaseMap then and then tried to use the code and it said it was already used. So then I'm like, give me your login information because you did something wrong, you clown.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I logged in. It says pro model, and I'm like, turned down all the layers for him, and I'm like, dude, it works. It works fine. Oh, and so he's like, well, let me reboot it on my phone. Oh yeah, it works great. I'm like, well, nice. Whatever. So
nice.
But okay, so I want to go into the features and all of the differences between BaseMap and kind of like the features that are kind of set it apart, and other than the price, because the price is incredible. But I want to know, so Amber, how did you get hooked up with BaseMap and all of that?
Ed. To put it very simply, Ed. He approached me last summer to be on the ambassador team, and I'll be completely honest, I never used it prior to that. He was just,
neither had I. but Amber was not allowed to tell me.
Oh,
no.
really?
No.
I didn't know that you
Well,
didn't use it prior to that.
I'd used it like 2 weeks prior to talking to you.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, sweet, cool, yeah, I'll try it out. And so just our simple hiking and getting ready for elk hunting, we used it, and the UP fishing. And the nice thing was, so I didn't have a huge background on Onyx, or I never used it. And my husband did, so the nice thing was we could do a side-by-side comparison whenever we went fishing or hiking or, just doing anything. I'm like, hey, what does Onyx show? What does BaseMap show? And so we used it fishing in the UP in September, and that's where I noticed the offline maps were so much better than Onyx. I mean, to put it very simply. And Pat's like, no, I've never had that level of detail on Onyx. So that was pretty good. Then we went out west, and I mean, we used the location sharing, the smart markers, and a ton of other stuff. Ed, you can go into that more if you want, but
well, and that kind of brings up something that I wanted to touch on too. Is
that's a hell of a trail.
So how long has BaseMap been around, and what's like the history of the company?
So the founder, Jeff Balch, started working on the app, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago. And honestly, it was about the same time frame that OnX started working on it. A couple of us joke that the founder of both OnX and BaseMap in a different life could be best friends. I mean, they're like two peas in a pod. So 6 or 7 years ago, it was kind of last year. I mean, they've been around. Nobody really heard of them. It was last year at the Salt Lake City Hunting Expo that was kind of their coming out party. I mean, they had a booth there, sold a ton of memberships, but it was still kind of word of mouth. They weren't doing any marketing behind it, so people didn't really know about it. So July, when they brought me on and brought on a marketing director, that's when the marketing machine really started getting turned on, and people started hearing more about it. I mean, we changed up their social media. We started doing Facebook ads, got an ambassador team to talk about it, and really, we're really going after the marketplace aggressively. OnX has been around forever, it seems like, and we just want our share of the pie. We just want a little bit larger share than we have now, but we want our share of the pie like everybody else. So it's been around for a while. A lot of different versions. We've actually, seen a couple different versions since I've been with them. But no different than OnX. I mean, when OnX came out with their app, I'll be honest, it was a complete dumpster fire. But they improved it to get it to where it is now. It's a good app. I mean, we obviously feel like we have a stronger feature set that puts us a little bit ahead of them right now, aside from the price, as you said.
And so let's talk about that. So what sets you apart from any of the other apps that are out there? I mean, what would you say are the key features or the main things and the most used features? I mean, because I've used it, so I mean, you can definitely mark all your waypoints. You can breadcrumb your trails.
Right.
You can do all the things that you would expect to do. And I think that's one of the conversations that John has had. John and I is like, well, is it still like Onyx? Can you still do all the same things that you can do? And
right.
if so, why would I want to just change other than it's cheaper?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is going to work similar to any other GPS app out there. I mean, GPS's basic function is to mark your location or follow you as you move around. So yeah, you can mark your waypoints. You can create a track to, breadcrumb trail to follow you, where you've been. But some of the features that we have that others don't have, and Amber alluded to this a little bit ago, 3D mapping. Now, you'll hear us say it's only available on iOS. It is available on Android through an extra couple steps, but it's integrated into the iOS system because we actually use Apple's 3D mapping. So nationwide, you can have 3D maps, to kind of it's nice to see how big the mountains are, see the drainages, see the valleys, see how
See what
steep
kind of
things are.
shithole you're gonna go into.
Yeah, because not everybody can read a topo map.
Right.
Okay, so this allows you to really see that. Now, the drawback to the 3D mapping is that you do need to have cell service. It does not work for offline maps.
Right.
So if you're way back in, it's not going to do you much good.
Now,
But it is pretty sweet, if you're e-scouting from home, to kind of see what you're getting yourself into.
so now does that work on the one like we have it pulled up on the computer? Is that one of the layers that you can turn on
No.
while you're
No,
e-scouting?
no,
Nope.
you can export your stuff to Google Earth and see it there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's what I had to do with when we were e-scouting for Idaho.
You have like 3 screens.
Yeah, I'd have split screen, and then on the Google Earth, I'd switch over to the 3D mapping. That way, you could see what the terrain looked like. But then, I don't know how many times I ended up like 300 miles off the wrong direction. I was like, "Where the hell am I? I'm lost." Like got to zoom back out. And I was getting motion sick and stuff.
Yeah, you can. No different than you were talking about being able to move your stuff from OnX to BaseMap. You can actually export your waypoints to Google Earth and see all of it there.
Right.
To get that 3D view on the computer. For the desktop, correct.
Okay, but
and you can actually do that through the phone too. So those people that have Androids, you can export your waypoints into Google Earth and still have that 3D imagery. It's just not an option. It's not integrated into the app for Android users. Amber also mentioned live location sharing. This is something that I know our competitor had been working on for a long time and never got it to work. So let me take a step back. So in the BaseMap app, there's an outdoor journal, and in the journal, you can follow friends or follow other people. It's kind of like a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram type thing built into the app. So with that, you can turn on live location sharing. So any friends or people that you follow or are friends with on the app in BaseMap, you can share your location. So again, you have to have cell service for this to work, but it will show where you are or where your friend is live right now. I don't think I have it turned on for Amber, so I can't show it. She can't demo it for you.
It's top secret.
But so for live location sharing, if you tell a buddy, hey, I got a downed elk, or I need help here or help there, you don't have to share a marker or a waypoint with them. They can actually see you right on the app.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
I say we used it last elk season with Justin, the camera guy, and Pat, my husband. We decided one night to split up, and we all obviously had BaseMap, and we had fortunately we have service where we all kind of at. So those two split off, and then didn't see anything or hear anything. End of the night, hey, gonna meet up? Yup. And I could see them walking, their little GPS thing walking toward me, and it was pretty accurate. And it's just nice. It's a good peace of mind to, to make sure that they're still around and they're not running from a freaking mountain lion or something.
I think the Western guys will like it. For the guys that are calling their buddies to help them pack out an elk or something. Yeah. You at least know if they're really coming to help you out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Life 360 for your for hunting.
Right. We have like on X, I guess we have a pretty robust weather app. Within BaseMap shows current weather, shows future weather. But with that, Amber also mentioned something called smart markers. So when you drop a waypoint, it actually collects the current weather, time, wind. I mean, everything about that point in time for weather and things like that, it saves it on that waypoint. So if you're kind of cataloging, seeing animals, and you're trying to figure out trends of when animals are going to be around, or what the weather was like, it actually saves that at that moment what what weather or any kind of conditions were like.
Well, that's awesome. We were just talking about
that. We talked about that on our couple podcasts ago with our scouting. So we went to Wisconsin and did the scouting workshop for Dan Infall, and we were talking about how to in some sort of like to journal or
pattern whitetail.
Well,
Essentially.
but what we wanted to do was to say like when we were there, like to do a better job of writing down what we saw, when we saw, weather
conditions,
wind, etc.
But so
if it does it already for you, then
there you go.
Yeah.
So you could take it a step further then, and you could actually log it in the outdoor journal. So our journal is just getting used more and more and more every day. And there's 3 ways to do it. You can make a public post where anybody can see it, but then it also shows your waypoint. You can make a limited post where you can type in notes and kind of share a picture about what's going on, but nobody can see your actual location. Or you can make it private that only you can see it, and it's kind of an outdoor journal. You're cataloging what you've seen on that day. Again, it'll record the weather and the time and all that sort of thing, so you can kind of have that information. You don't have to write it, pen and paper. It's right there on your phone.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're
talking about.
And you didn't know about
see,
that.
See
before.
what you guys are missing by not using it?
Right.
Well, I mean, like I said, were you not here 15 minutes ago when I said that I'm slow to take all this stuff up?
Well,
I forget.
I know Amber's friends with you guys. I'm going to blame Amber for not sharing this information with you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry.
She's keeping it to herself, apparently.
Yeah. What kind of ambassador is she?
I was just going to say, heck of an ambassador.
Whoa,
well, you chose her.
Whoa.
I guess we just got an opening in Michigan.
Yeah.
So
Smart ass.
So with your, obviously it still works. Like when we were out in Idaho, we used our phones. Adam never broke out his GPS. I left mine at home because I couldn't find it, and but we just flipped our phones into airplane mode, and we had the maps downloaded already.
Right.
And so it tracked us the whole time. I just had our tracks up, and Amber's like, "Holy cow! Look at all those tracks!"
How many times did you walk that?
Every day.
Yeah.
That we,
Right.
it was 7 or 8 days of tracks going up and down that.
Right.
branch
I mean,
road.
that's one of the cool things about the app, and other apps do the same thing. But you can obviously download your maps from home prior to going out west or wherever. Hell, even Wisconsin, there's areas where you don't have service. Download your maps ahead of time, and then when you get out there, you just turn on the offline maps. What it does then is turns off the cell signal to the app itself, but leaves on the GPS signal, so that the app isn't constantly trying to ping a cell tower
Right.
to try to get the information. So, one thing with us is we have so many different layers, and you can turn various layers on and off prior to downloading, the area you're going to hunt. So every layer you turn on is a layer that's saved in that file for that location.
Quick question about that. Is there a limit to how many layers you can turn on when you're caching a map?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The limit is how much memory you have on your phone.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and that's on the Pro, correct? Because when I was trying to do it on the without being logged in, it would only tell me you could only do so much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you have the basic, you could download. I think you could download an offline map, but it's very limited. But on the Pro, so there's actually you could do custom maps. So I do some archery antelope hunting in southeast Montana where nobody lives. There's no cell service. I swear I've got most of southeast Montana saved on my phone, and you have to do it section by section. With BaseMap, you can do really large maps for offline, but then you get less detail. But as you zoom in and get a little bit smaller area, then the detail kicks up. Whatever detail you see on cell service or Wi-Fi, that's what you're going to see offline. If you do the high res imagery.
The detail is still better than Onyx, though, even if you do a pretty big
area.
Oh,
hands down.
Because I did the state game area, and it's like over 6,000 acres, like that entire area, and the level of detail is insane compared to Onyx. So.
Right, and that's someplace. That's one thing that I think we shine at also. Our satellite imagery is way crisper than what Onyx has. So Onyx has 3 hate to use this term, base maps, okay? Satellite hybrid, and topography. And that's it. We've got 14,
Exactly.
on iOS. And, on iOS with 14, that includes two different 3D maps, and then a couple other high-res satellite imagery, and a ton of different topo maps. I mean, a lot of people everybody likes different topography maps, so we've got a bunch of them to choose from.
So talk to me a little bit more about these smart markers, because I've got my Onyx
Whoa.
my base map, as a matter of fact, up from the other day, and I think that's just like a term, like there's some things that have like come into like popular culture of like what you would just say,
like Kleenex.
Yeah, everything is Kleenex. But I'm looking at my waypoints, but I'm not seeing that information, because there was a couple of them where I marked like, okay, this was betting for a southwest wind, but I'm not seeing that. So is there something that you need to do for a smart marker, or
did you do that? Was it something you transferred over from Onyx, or was it?
No, it was what I did, but I wonder if it's because I was offline. I was in airplane mode when I was doing it.
It's probably because you were offline.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And what about any because that smart markers thing just came out? It was around last fall. Wasn't
it was September.
So what if
September-ish.
people save markers prior to that?
So honestly, so I obviously transferred over all my stuff from Onyx, and it shows the information. It shows information on the phone for the smart markers, but it recorded it on the date that I transferred the information over.
Okay.
Because it's not going to look back in time to 2018 when I was last in Montana. What was the weather that day?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it makes sense now that I actually think about it, because that was one of my things when every time I've used BaseMap is I try and use things where in a realistic setting as far as I'm going to be using them. And it seems like everywhere that we hunt, I do not have any cell phone service.
Yeah, me either.
And so I want to make sure that if I download it, what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing it, is going to be how I'm seeing it when I feel like I need it. I mean, there's a spot that I hunt about 45 minutes from here where if and it's funny because it's the things that Dan Infalt talks about, but if I'm left or right 10 feet, there is no log to cross, and it's waist deep water, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And right now, with the water being the way that it is, it's probably like up to my chest. So, and I've done that without a light because I couldn't find my flashlight, holding my phone, navigating by that, thinking, okay, well, if I drop this phone, then I'm really in trouble.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the situations that I find myself in. So I want to make sure that when I'm doing it, everything's offline, I'm tracking it, and I'm able to go back and kind of look and see. So that makes complete sense.
Right.
So as far as other features that, people may overlook with, I guess, one of the things that I look at when I look at new products, and like, hell, I mean, we're in a climate, I guess, where the people that I talk to every day, we think, why didn't I think of that, or whatever? And what are the features of BaseMap that you don't know you need until you need them? And I think that the smart marker thing is exactly what we just talked about. But is there anything else on there that, I mean, I feel like for you think is one of the main features that sets it apart?
I mean, honestly, the buzz, so we just did our big consumer show out in Salt Lake City last weekend, and everybody was raving about the 3D. People definitely talked about the live location sharing, but I tell you what, the 3D was like the big hit. As soon as you pull that up on your phone, when we're talking to a customer or on the iPad, that usually sealed the deal. And
that's obviously mainly for the Western states because there's really no 3D out here.
I don't know. I can tell you, like, where we hunted in Ohio, I guarantee you that would be like legit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
but not so much right here in West Michigan.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the Lower Peninsula.
I mean, to be honest, if the 3D didn't sell them, it was the price.
Yeah,
I mean, so you know, the one feature that I'll hit on is the price. Okay, you know, Onyx is $100 for all 50 states. We're 30 for all 50 states. Okay, so that's $70 is a couple boxes of ammo. It's a box of decoys. It's a half a dozen arrows. It's, you know, it's half a buying a pair of rubber boots. I mean, you know, the list could go on and on what you could do with that $70. You know, Onyx charges $100 because they were the only game in town, and they could charge whatever the hell they wanted. And you know, when we were formed, you know, we got all the maps and information at one time. They were going state by state by state. You know, so we could offer a little bit more bang for the buck, I'll say.
One of the things that I am excited to hear about, because I don't have access to it right now, is BaseMap actually does have an add-on.
Right.
So
on top of the $30 a year, there's an add-on, our hunt research data, for an extra $10 a year, and it is for the Western states only. Well, you get season dates throughout the country, but the hunt research really it shines in the Western states. It's going to go basically animal by animal, unit by unit. It shows you historical harvest data. So if you're looking for a unit to go chase mule deer and you want to find some place that has historically been good for people to fill a tag, it's going to show you that information.
And what is, I think I've asked you this before, but what's the plan for getting the eastern states on that hunt research?
Probably none, because a lot of this goes to the lottery system to draw a tag. I mean, most of the eastern states, I think all the eastern states, are basically over the counter.
Yeah, and I guess my point is, like, I want to know, especially since we kind of switched to hunting public land, the rules are different than hunting private land just for whitetail in Michigan. I mean, it's pretty convoluted, and all the turkey BS and the fishing is a different thing. But, like, I just want to pull it up to see when's the muzzleloading season this year, or archery, or I have this tag, what can I get with it on public land type thing. So
right. Well,
it's not the lottery thing, but
it shows the dates. But with our big push, I'll say from a marketing standpoint, our big push this year is Midwest and East. The four of us can agree that whitetail is king. And I had this conversation many times in Salt Lake City last weekend to all these elk hunters. Look, I love elk hunting as much as the next guy, but whitetail is king. Okay, there's more whitetail hunters than elk, mule deer, and you name all the Western big game animals, combined. So maybe it's something we could work on, Amber.
Well,
sorry, he's pulling stuff up, so I'm
I'm trying to see what exactly it does show as far as that I'm adding layers and things like that. But one of the things that I would be interested to see, and I feel like I'm like remiss in saying this, or that I don't know, it's one of those things that I don't know that I want to bring up, but I don't really care, I guess.
Oh, come on.
So one of the things that would be helpful in many of these states, and we hunted Ohio for a few years, is the Ohio DNR does have the states, the counties of bucks registered on their big buck registry over 140. So that would be something that would be kind of in line with that, where you could go on there and click on it and it would say this county is number.
So some of that data is actually provided by Boone and Crockett or Pope and Young. We don't have the licensing agreements for that right now. I know that Onyx has a licensing agreement, I want to say, with Boone and Crockett. So they have a layer on theirs where it actually shades the county based on number of animals harvested, in the record book.
Okay.
We're trying to work on an agreement right now with one of those two organizations. I think it might happen, but that's where it would probably come from, is from Boone and Crockett or Pope and Young, not necessarily the state DNR.
Okay, because I know you can pull it up for Ohio, and I know Michigan has Michigan commemorative bucks. Now I don't know who governs that, but
yeah, part of the problem is actually having that data in a format that, you know, in a digital format that we can use to integrate it into the app. You know, if they don't have it in the right format, that would take somebody forever and a day to actually decipher and convert to go into the app.
okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. And so I guess with that, what, you know, we've had many people ask us, you know, to have somebody on here to talk about e-scouting and mapping and things like that. As far as the tools every day that you use personally, other than, you know, mapping tree stands or the trail cameras or whatever, like, what do you think just as a whole in the whole scope of this GPS mapping, like what do you think are the most important things, and how are you using it?
Honestly, the most important thing to do, or the easiest thing to do, is actually like you guys are doing there, logging on the computer. You know, because you're going to see that information on a bigger screen and be able to decipher what it is and kind of zoom in further, turn the map and look at it and drop away. You know, so if you're going out west elk hunting and you're looking for a water hole or a pond or something that elk might go to in the heat of the day, well, you can see that a lot easier on your computer than you can on your phone. Okay. So you find that spot and you mark the location on your computer. Well, that marker transfers over to your mobile device.
Yeah.
You know, and vice versa. Anything you do on a computer transfers to mobile, and anything you do on mobile transfers to web. Okay. That's probably the easiest way to do it versus, you know, sitting on the couch and looking at your phone for hours upon hours and trying to figure out what it is you're looking at.
So when you were talking about hunting antelope in Montana, John was out getting his glasses because he's just been on his phone here.
I'm gonna steal them from him in a minute.
He looks like my grandma over here with his.
I got something going on my right eye. I had to get some cheaters. I cannot see out of my right eye.
But that's like on John's bucket list of things to do. And it's like right at the top. So as soon as you said, you know, you do a lot of antelope hunting in Montana and this and that, and John doesn't have his headset on, I'm going, oh my God. Like,
yeah. I'm like, well, what I say, I'm hunting Montana this year. Hopefully I've, you know, got to put in for my tags. And I'm like, my wife doesn't know this, but I'm driving out by myself. I'm like, I might just hit South Dakota for antelope first on the way out, or just put in for my antelope tag because it's archery only in Montana. Is basically you just apply for it and get it.
Yeah, it's the 900 tag is basically guaranteed.
Yeah, yep.
So where in Montana are you going?
Bozeman. I have a buddy.
Why are you going all the way out to Bozeman? You're skipping all of the good antelope ground.
Well, that's why that's what I'm saying. I'm going to be driving through the antelope to get out because I have a buddy that lives in Bozeman. To go elk hunt.
You're going to the wrong place, my friend.
Well, you remember that sharing thing in the waypoint?
See, Ed has a few points he shared.
Yeah. Let's talk to Amber about that because I'm going back. You know, so not only do I do the ambassador team for BaseMap, but I also run the ambassador team for Zeiss Optics, and I'm hosting an ambassador antelope hunt in Montana next fall. And everybody thinks they're getting all my waypoints and following me all over the place.
I've got like two.
Nobody's getting
like
anything. Yeah.
And who knows if they're even legit. He's probably like, oh, I'm going to make this waypoint and totally throw her off.
Man, I'm telling you, if you're going out to Bozeman, I love Bozeman, but you are skipping all of the best antelope ground in the state.
Have you drove through Montana before?
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, every time we drive through eastern Montana, I almost hit like 20 antelope.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I drove out through there years ago. That was one of the things that, you know, I was like, but yeah, so that's my plan. I can actually take like the whole month of September if I really, you know, wanted to piss my wife off a lot.
So where I hunt antelope in southeast Montana, there's so many damn antelope, and two, there is so much public land. It's ridiculous. You know, you get a little bit less public land and a little bit less antelope in Bozeman because they're hunted more.
Right.
You're gonna have more pressure.
Yeah. So but I'm going to Bozeman for the elk, just to hook up with my buddy, elk and whitetail. So
perfect.
So yeah, I'll definitely have to keep that in mind, and on the way out, just try to.
I'll let Amber tell you offline where to go and whereabouts to go in Montana.
All right.
Maybe we'll see.
But yeah, like I said, one of the biggest tips I can give is study the maps on the computer from home, and then just add your waypoints and they'll just transfer over your phone next time you log in. That's the easiest thing to do.
Can you, this is just off the top of my head, about the 3D mapping, I'm just thinking e-scouting instead of having Google Earth on one screen and BaseMap on the other. So you said that you can transfer your waypoints on the desktop from BaseMap to Google Earth? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah, no different than moving your stuff from OnX to BaseMap. You can export your KML or GPX files and upload
Adam
them to
just
Google
brought
Earth.
it up, so perfect.
Yeah, I'm showing her on the.
He's showing the ambassador
right.
stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get fired as the ambassador manager here. This is not good.
Yeah,
I need to do some more training. Apparently,
if you guys see BaseMap come off my Instagram account, then you know why.
Yeah, when you see ours pop up.
Yeah.
It'll be because and John gets a new pair of Zeiss optics and he's going antelope hunting in Montana next year.
There you go.
Hey, I'll build you a bow. Let's go.
Yeah. So outside of the hunting aspect, did you want to bring up like the fishing side?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to do. I was trying to pull up the like one of the lakes that's here because
so not all of them have lake depths.
Yeah,
right,
so
Ed?
there's 5,000 lakes that are mapped throughout the country. 5,000 sounds like a lot, but when you talk about, there's more than 10,000 lakes in Wisconsin. Obviously, more than 10,000 in Minnesota. 5,000 is not a lot. It's a feature that we are currently working on trying to improve and get more lakes. It's just trying to basically source that data because we're not driving around in boats trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah. There's a lot in Michigan, though, like from what I've looked at. How come you can't bring it up?
Well, I'm looking at the topography of the lakes here.
Oh, you don't have the lake depth layer on.
I thought I turned it on.
I don't think you did.
But anyways,
you'd have to have the chart.
That's John's favorite
Keep going to the right.
thing.
No, you're other right.
I mean, there's bathymetric data for the Great Lakes. There's data for Gulf of Mexico, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. There's different base maps, quote unquote base maps, that highlight rivers. It makes rivers like stand out in the map better.
Yep.
If you're fishing rivers
pulled
or anything. Yep. But the fishing thing is definitely something we're working on improving. I'll say that.
You should have just seen John's eyes light up when you said the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
And the Atlantic Ocean. How about the marathon humps?
He's on it.
Yeah, I'm going down there right now.
I'm on there too. I ended up logging into my buddies. I just downloaded BaseMap to my phone and I logged in on my buddy's account because I have, I had to set it up for him. So I guess he'll have my waypoints.
But so don't add all your waypoints. You don't want him having all that stuff.
Oh, these guys, you can't even believe the amount of rivalry, I guess, that they have. Like, they won't share baits. They'll be fishing together in Saginaw Bay, and one of them's catching something or lose a bait and say, "Hey, do you have any more of those?" And the other guy will look at him straight face and say, "Nope," with a whole tackle box full of the same equipment.
Nice.
It's pretty tough. But we grew up. He's like my brother. They used to call us the ugly twins when we were growing up. So
nice. But yeah, like I said, the fishing thing is something that we're looking to improve on. And as well, circling back on the hunt research data, that's another thing that will be improved for this year. I can't disclose how it's going to be improved, but it's going to be improved pretty darn soon, and it's going to be pretty impressive.
Nice.
Okay.
And the fishing thing is something that not a lot a lot of other people have out there as far as the hunting and fishing, the one-stop
Right.
shop type thing. So
Right.
even though the fishing side is fairly limited, there's still information out there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've asked a ton of questions, and there's, like Ed said, there's stuff in the works that we can't really say anything about, but there's a lot of stuff being worked on. So stay tuned.
Pretty much.
Well, all right, man. I think that's kind of all we've got for this evening. So when people are interested in BaseMap or any of this or any of the questions about say they do switch over and they want to export all of their stuff, where are the tutorials? Where can they find all the information? And are you the contact person, or is there someone they need to reach out to?
Hell no. No, so actually we have a YouTube page that has a bunch of tutorials, including a short video that shows you how to export your data from OnX to BaseMap. And honestly, so our tutorial shows just OnX, but there's people that have Gaia, the Hunt Stand, Scout looks not around anymore. Any of these apps you can export, it's a GPX or a KML file, and you just import it into BaseMap. There's tutorials on YouTube for that. And if you really run into a problem, call Amber. Or
be careful, Ed.
Here's her personal cell phone number. We'll post that at the show notes.
I do all the social media for BaseMap, and there's questions that I don't always know the answer to, so I send them to have them email us at support@basemap.com, and then one of our folks behind the scene you might get kind of a nerdy answer, but you'll get an answer.
Say they're pretty quick.
Yeah,
I've emailed them before.
They're super quick at getting back at you.
Yep.
Well, good deal.
Well, awesome.
I'll definitely be switching over. So.
Are you saying that just to be nice, or
no? Like I said, I mean, for one purpose, for save $70 a year. If I can do all the same stuff I do on Onyx, I can bring all my waypoints and tracks over, even though they're the same color. That doesn't matter. I just don't want to lose that stuff. You got the 3D. I was just checking that out on there, for out west and stuff, all in your app.
The fishing, I saw you were checking out.
Yeah, I was checking out the fishing. So, yeah, that's. For $30 a year, my Onyx is actually it's up for renewal in a few weeks. So, I'll have to hit the cancellation notice. So
there you go. Well, make sure you turn off that auto renew.
Yes. Plus, I already have a cool BaseMap hat. I was wearing it on the way over here, and then Adam just showed up with my new tethered hat, so I had to test that out, and then I left my BaseMap hat in the truck. But
well, there's one more thing I'll add, and if I don't say this, I'm going to get my ass kicked at the office. I got to make a shameless plug for one other thing that everybody should be doing on BaseMap.
Your job.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. I don't know if John has been paying attention to that. It's freaking ridiculous.
Big deal.
I feel like it's rigged because I saw Pat won one of them and his husband. I thought,
so I can legitimately say that Pat did win. Amber does not know where the location is.
Nope.
So Pat did legitimately win that week.
Because inside, the ambassadors can't win gear drops. But we have a little inside competition. So, we want to win just as bad for different reasons as other people do. So, I don't know where the freaking points are at.
I will go on record, as far as the ambassadors, they all suck. None of them have even come close to winning.
But I can. Before you get into that, because John is looking at us with big wide eyes, whatever. John is a freaking analytical nerd.
Oh, he's gonna win next week.
He will win because they give you hints and it says here's a hint that it's going to be on it's going to be on this trail. Like the last one. Now, granted, it was like a $7,000 rifle package, but it was I gave up because it was there's a rock formation at the head of this trail, and then there's another rock formation that looks similar, like somewhere else on the trail or at the end of the trail.
And it was a specific trail, and there's like
Yeah,
hundreds of these
when you pulled it up, like
trails.
the one before that, there was like this elephant whatever trail. This fucking unit had 10,000 like trails, and it was like nope. Mm-mm. And I wasn't on the computer; I was just on my phone, and I was like, "There's no way." But I can see where someone with a little bit of time on their hands and a little bit of like, I don't know. I mean,
Luck?
like no.
No, that last one was luck.
That analytical portion, like that stick to itiveness, be like, all right, well, I only have 4 chances, so these are going to be the chances. I mean, John's already got a shit-eating grin on his face that he's gonna.
So I
do this stuff. I do like I've looked at like YouTube videos and try to figure out where they're at in this video by like the topography and like I found stuff. I've found places before just by doing that.
So I will say that the winners every week are usually 3 feet or less from the actual spot.
It's pretty insane.
Like last week, the winner of that rifle package was 1.67 feet away from the actual spot.
So, give us a breakdown of the gear drop. You know, we're dancing around it, but
yeah. So gear drop is a campaign that we run within the app. It runs Wednesday through Monday every week. And at the bottom right hand of the screen, there's a little gear drop icon.
Only on the app, though.
Only on the app. It's not on the computer. It's only on your mobile device. Click on that. It'll show you what the gear drop is that week. It takes you to the location. It's usually like a hunting unit or a state forest or national park. It's a designated area. Takes you there. You get 1 free marker, per week. You can gain other markers by doing a survey, watching a Facebook or sharing on Facebook, sharing with a friend, watching a YouTube video. There's a bunch of different ways you can get additional markers. And it's basically kind of winner takes all. The closest person to the hidden location gets the grand prize. Second place gets a $100 gift card. Third place gets a hat and a T-shirt from us. So last week we had about a $7,000 rifle package. This week it's about an $800 backpack package. We've got a proof research rifle coming up here in a couple weeks. We've got a.
You're not supposed to tell people that.
Well, I want people to get excited.
Yeah.
We've got a Daniel Defense AR-15 coming up in a couple weeks.
What about fishing stuff?
We're not talking about that right now. We're probably going to do another Hoyt bow in a couple weeks. So it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, it gets people to, use the app in the quote unquote off season. But it also gets them to play with the layers and try to learn how to use the app a little bit more.
Yeah, that's one thing that Pat told me was that he knew how to use it before, but it really forces you to do stuff within the app, and that's helped out a lot. So
I mean, all I can tell you is follow the hints because we get you close.
Yeah.
And then there is a little bit of luck involved.
It's a game.
You got to carpet bomb it with your 4 choices.
So no kidding. A couple weeks ago, a lot of people aren't following the hints, and we've been talking about it internally. Like, why are people not reading the hints?
Jesus.
So we gave one hint a couple weeks ago. It was at such and such tower. We said at the tower, not on the tower.
All you had to do was Google search it. That's it.
Right. So you just had to find a tower. The location was about 100 yards or so north of the tower. And people bitched, your hint sucked. You said it was at the tower. Yeah, it's at the tower, not on the tower.
I saw that on social media. I saw that on Instagram. People were like on fire about like, you said it was right there. It wasn't. Like, it was like 30 yards away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did that as a test to see if people were really following the hints. I think that week we had a pin in Havana, Cuba. We had a pin in the middle of the ocean. We had one in Hawaii. People just aren't listening.
Told you it's smart asses.
Yeah, it could be smart asses, but so yeah, I have to make that shameless plug as the marketing manager to play Gear Drop every week. And even if you have the free version, you still have just as much chance to win as the paid. I think most of the winners have been on the free version. So you get all the layers on the free version you can use to play and win.
Because they got no jobs to pay for the money, so they're just sitting around Googling all this shit.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Wow.
I mean, like I said, I told Ed when we started this, I said, you can say whatever you want on here. I said, we do. I do.
Well, okay. So what I will say is, obviously we have lawyers that look over all this stuff. So legally, we have to make it just as much chance to win if you have the basic membership as a paid membership. So obviously, we would love for people to have the paid membership. It's only $30, but if you use the basic one, you still have just as much of a chance to win.
Yeah, but then it just gets them lured in, and then they're like, "Oh, I want to buy the pro."
Well,
exactly.
and that's what I said. With this stuff, if you're actually using it and you are serious about hunting and you're serious about, trying to find new areas and trying to do the e-scouting, these apps are invaluable, and the free versions always do leave you wanting. And we use these things for more. I mean, I couldn't tell you how much I use it to see who lives where, and especially like even when you're driving. But
are you stalking?
I might, but it could even go so far as like when you're driving around and you see someone lives in the area, and then you see a deer or turkey season coming up, where you see these turkeys that are in their field, and you're saying, okay, who do I know that lives near there, or who do I know? I know someone lives right there, and it's always looking at properties versus, and especially when things are for sale and things like
right.
that. Who owns it? Like, because there's these two ridiculous lots in front of my house that like are owned by this 900-year-old couple, but they want
a lot of money.
Prior to this job, I used BaseMap, or prior to BaseMap, I used a competitor every day. I was in insurance sales and kind of specialized in selling insurance to large farms. And I literally use these apps every single day on my job. I mean, there's way more uses than just hunting or fishing.
So I have a question for Adam, because that's when he asked about doing a podcast with you, I'm like, this is an awesome, like, third party, non-biased opinion. He can try it out for however long and see what he really thinks. What is your honest opinion? And he has a pretty good, or you guys both have a good Michigan following. Like, there's a lot of listeners in Michigan that follow these guys. What is your opinion on BaseMap?
So,
honest.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's hard because you're so used to using one thing. That if you use the exact same icon for everything, all the icons aren't exactly the same. So there's a little intricate differences about how you drop the pin. Mm-hmm. I found myself doing that, this weekend when I was scouting, like, okay, there's a X and I got to move that X to like where it is. And it's just like because I see the dot where I'm at and I see the X and things like that. So if I were just to say, as far as like the user interface, I would be like, I'm more comfortable because I've used the other one for a few years.
And that goes back to the Droid versus Apple thing.
But like I say, like when you get it on the computer, it's like, holy shit, like everything that we talk about and all the different things where we're swapping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you can do it in the same app and you don't have to try and track where you were at or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the amount of detail in the maps is incredible. Now, when I will say, not always is less more, but one of the things is that there are so many layers, you have to get a feel for the ones that you need for which situation. Mm-hmm. And that is probably one of the more nuanced things that goes along with it. Is so while you're using it on your phone is way different than what you're using, I feel like, on the computer on a big screen, or even on the, John will freaking Bluetooth it to the TV and it's on a 70-inch screen and he's, really getting into it. But those sometimes that detail on your phone isn't necessary. The other side of that, and I want to say this, is that, so if you want a certain feature on your phone, when you download that map, you need to have that layer turned on, because you're only going to have what you downloaded.
And I forget to do that a lot. I'm like, where are all my layers? Oh, yeah. I forgot to turn them on before I download them.
But the feature of being able to pick as big of an area as you want is, I feel like that's invaluable, because, like, and John can tell you this straight up, like, when we were turkey hunting last year, we, like, between the two of us, had this whole area downloaded except for where we ended up going.
Right.
And, like, it was on the corners of all of the things that we downloaded.
And I thought I had downloaded, well, it just didn't, like,
I was downloading enough service.
Right. I was downloading maps before we left, and that was like the last one. It didn't download all the way. So
being able to pick and choose the area that you want, as long as you've got room on your phone, is huge. And especially when you're going out west,
because it's unlimited maps. You have no limits.
Yep.
Right.
So, I mean, my personal opinion, and again, people that listen to the podcast, they know that I'm just cheap. I'm just, like, straight up like cheap. I don't have a problem spending a lot of money on 100 things, but I won't spend way too much money on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about it earlier when I took John on a wild goose chase and it almost panned out. But, I was using Frank's Onyx because I wasn't sure I was going to Missouri. So I didn't spend the extra $70 for the rest of the country because I wasn't sure that I was going. So I was going back and forth, and I didn't have service to switch back over and log into mine. And we ended up, doing a couple loop-de-loops. And
yeah.
It just sounds like it's, going back to, you get probably 80-90% of the same stuff, but for way cheaper.
No,
so
I
it's
think
like if I'm getting the same
no,
shit
I don't
for
think
the
that
same price.
I don't think that anything is lacking. There isn't anything on there where I said, man, I wish I had this.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, like, knowing what you need and where it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And so for it pains me. It really does. I've got friends that still use Hunt Stand, and we talked to Jason Semkoviak on the podcast, and if you listen to his podcast, he just talks about him and his GPS, and I'm like, man. And he's like, well, I just haven't taken the time to learn any of these softwares, but it's just like, my God, like, it's one more thing to lose, to have to I don't know. I have a GPS up in a swamp in the UP because I lost it up there. So I have my phone still, but I do not have the GPS. When we went out west, everything had orange tape on it, blaze orange tape, because of that. Because I was like, if I lose it, we could die. Right. So, but yeah, I think that's my takeaway from it.
Okay.
Well, what I will say, depending on when this podcast airs, we are redoing the user interface on the app, and it is coming this week. Okay.
Yeah, the one time I didn't do the test on it, they're redoing.
Yeah, and it's gonna be way easier. Like everything is in your face now.
Very good feedback on that.
Much easier to use.
Yep.
Well, yeah, this is going to come out on Wednesday, so we'll definitely update it as we use it. So
the update, I don't know if you could get this out of here. The update's actually coming on Thursday. No, you know what? I think it might be coming tomorrow.
Okay.
It's supposed to come tomorrow, but depends on iTunes and Google Play.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I say, I think that's all we got for this evening, and I just want to thank you for taking the time out to talk with us, and thanks for the beers at ATA, and
hey, what about these ones?
Well,
I brought beer.
yeah. BaseMap did bring us beer today too, so
I'm quite certain we're going to be doing that again next year. So you can come and have another beer on us.
Heck yeah.
Well, we'll certainly be there, and we had such a bitch of a time getting tickets this year because they screwed around with the media. If you need, if you got an ambassador tickets, we'll take Amber's because we'll actually use it.
Well, we had VIP seating, and it was up in the balcony,
Yeah.
like off to the side.
Yeah.
But good times.
Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Ed. I think that's all we got for this evening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Romantic, isn't it? Shut up and sit down.